Alright, so I wasn't planning on doing this, but I wasn't even planning on watching this. But I was at my folks' place last night with my son. We watched a new episode of Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I like. And so I figured, I saw that they had the first episode of the Mighty Ducks Game Changers on there. And I'm like, why not? Just give it a chance. Why not? So we watched it, and I liked it, which is weird. So this was announced. They were going to have the Mighty Ducks Game Changers. And I was like, oh, because if you don't know, I grew up with the Mighty Ducks. I have the box set right here. I mentioned in my reviews that I reviewed. When I did the reviews, I mentioned that I watched them out of order. I watched the first one, and then we rented the third one because that one just came out, and then we watched the second one, so it was out of order. But yes, so it was my childhood. I love these movies. I used to talk about them with friends all the time. We're at work, and we'll quote lines. Charlie, don't you ever do that to me again. Stuff like that. Goldberg? It's over, baby. Just endless quotes. Right? So when it was announced that they were going to be doing this, I was excited. And then I read what it was going to be about. The Mighty Ducks, at least have become the Hawks in this situation. And they don't think this kid is good enough, so they kick him off the team, and he has to form his own team. That right there didn't sit with me. I'm like, no, the Ducks wouldn't be like that. Well, there are some things that I'm iffy on in this. It's only the first episode. There's some things I'm iffy on, some things that I'm okay with. So, we got this kid named Emmett. I think his name is Emmett. He's on the Ducks, but he's running late, and he's not the best player. And so their coach, Coach T, yes, that is his name, kicks him off the team because he's the only one to get kicked off the team. He says that he just says, don't bother. If you're not going to be good at this point, don't bother. That spurs his mom, played by Lauren Graham, to freak out and yell at him, which, of course, in this day and age, means there's a video recorded and it goes viral. Because that's what it is this day and age, I guess. And so, he ends up hanging with his friend, who is a commentator. One of the commentator guys. They do mention the Mighty Ducks. It does take place in Minnesota, which is cool, because that's where I'm from, so that's cool for me. And I have seen the diner that Charlie's mom worked at in the first and third one. The second one wasn't in Minnesota, but I have seen that diner up in the cities. So, yeah. So yeah, that was pretty cool when I first saw it, because I didn't realize they were actually in Minnesota until I saw that diner. I'm like, that looks like Diner for Mighty Ducks. And someone's like, it is. I'm like, no way. They actually filmed in Minnesota. Amazing. And yeah, so it still takes place in Minnesota because you got to go back to your roots, And so there's snow, obviously, because it's Minnesota. Well, there's no snow right now, but anyway. So they decide they're going to put together their own team. The only problem is there's only two of them. So they got to start, getting together with other people. They ask, they say, no, there's just one guy. He's like, oh, if someone dares you to do it, you got to do it. And which, plot point that comes in later. And but he doesn't want to be a part of the team, which, why didn't they just say, I dare you right there? And, but, they meet this new kid who supposedly who is new and supposedly into hockey, but they find out he sucks. And then the mom is going on her own journey because she works for this big corporate place, much like Gordon did in the first one where he was the lawyer. But now she works for a corporate thing, big bad corporate, who's going to evict people from their buildings because message. That's been in many movies anyway. But and she finds this old skating rink called the Ice Palace because she was looking for places for them to practice. And inside the Ice Palace, we find one Gordon Bombay. And I don't understand what they did with this character. Yes, there's a nice callback where he says, I hate hockey and I don't like kids. That's from the first film. But at this stage, he should be past that. And so I was watching the Distracted Nerds review video on this. And he mentioned something that makes sense. What if this wasn't Bombay, but Charlie? Because to me, it doesn't make sense that they would regress Bombay back to hating hockey and not liking kids after everything he'd been through in the first 3 films. His character went full circle in the first 3 films. To bring him back to this, to the way he was in the first film, doesn't make much sense. I feel like maybe they wrote it for Charlie, but couldn't get Joshua Jackson to come back, so they brought back Emilio Estevez. Or Disney wanted star power, so they just brought in Emilio Estevez anyway, because they wanted that hook. Hey, look, the original guy's coming back. But it feels like this would be Charlie, not Gordon. Like Distracted Nerd mentioned, Charlie should be this character, and then Gordon should be running the skate shop, like Hans, taking over the skate shop. That was my pitch too. When my friends and I would talk about what they did in the 4th film, I said I would want it to be where Charlie becomes the coach, and Gordon becomes the Hans character. That's what they should have done. But no, it's Gordon. And I do like that, in this day and age, Disney is all PC. So there's no alcohol. There's no drinking. The original film, he got a DUI for drinking while driving. And that, within the story, he would go back to alcohol. But in this day and age, Disney's not going to do that. So what do? They have him eat food. So he hosted a birthday there or something, and there's like a whole half a cake left, and he's eating that. Even like a day later, he's still eating the cake, and they're like, "You still going on that cake?" He's like, "Yeah." She's like, so how's that cake?" He goes, "Well, it's a little hard on the outside, but soft on the inside," which they use as now. Oh, kind of like you. And then there's a scene where he got a whole pizza there and he's just scarfing it down. So I like how they changed that, because Gordon, he probably will be back to drinking alcohol, but not in this day and age. We got to be PC, we got to be cool, we got to be with the kids, so he's eating food. I did that kind of like that, but I don't like how they're just, how they regressed him back to, I hate hockey, I don't like kids. Maybe there's a story there. Something happened. He keeps a picture of when he was in the Minnesota Quakes in the second film. So, I don't know. And for some reason, the kid, the little 11, 12-year-old kid, knows he's the Minnesota Miracle Man, but the mom doesn't. Where does that make sense? I don't know. But he does eventually... He stands up for himself because, Gordon tells him, hey, you can't have your mom fight your battles for you. You got to do it yourself. So in the middle of the cafeteria, he slams down his friend's lunch tray. And he makes a standing. He says, if anyone wants to join our team, he can. He basically spells out a speech like, you can do whatever you want to do. Don't let them tell you that you can't do anything. So he gets a bunch of people. There's this one called Goob. And he's basically Goldberg times a million because he's actually good. He's a chubby ethnic kid. I'm not sure what ethnicity he is, so I'm gonna say ethnic. I don't like using the word minority. So he's a chubby ethnic kid, and he reminds me of Goldberg, but he can actually catch. He can actually stop things. He's actually a good goalie, where Goldberg just gets hit with the pucks all the time. Why am I always getting stuff thrown at me? Goldberg, you're the goalie. Deal. But yeah, and couple other. He gets enough, and there are ragtag groups, and they show up at this ragtag group, much like the original Mighty Ducks. They show up at this team ceremony that Coach T. We'll talk about Coach T in a second, because I wouldn't want to talk about this actor, because this actor, me and him, we have a history. But So get up there, and the mom's like, wait, because he introduces all the teams, and he's like, that's all the teams, and then the mom comes out, she's like, no, wait, there's one more, and she's like, this is the other team, and he's like, okay, so what's your names? And I was thinking, oh, she's gonna say the Game Changers. No, because they gotta be funny. They're the Don't Bothers. But I did like this, because they laughed at the name. He goes, and the kid goes, we're coming for your name. So I'm assuming they're going to become the Mighty Ducks. You know. Kind of like with 3. When we win, the No Bothers die, and the Ducks fly. That kind of thing. And I think that's it. And of course, they're not very good, but yeah, I think it was a decent start. I am here to admit I'm wrong. I was wrong. I thought that they were going to ruin the Ducks, but it's got the same heart. The music score, man. Stephen Brill, did he direct the first one, or is he just a producer on other films? Stephen Herrick. Stephen Brill was the writer of the original film. And let's see. And based on characters by Stephen Brill. So he was the writer of the original film, and he's come back as like an executive producer type thing. I think he actually also wrote some stuff. So he put a lot of care into this. So maybe that's why he reverted Bombay back to where he was in the first film, because he wasn't really involved with the other two. But I think they took pretty good care in this. It takes place in Minnesota. It's got the music. It got me chills when I heard the music, man. I'm telling you, when I heard that music, I'm like, the day. And then you don't even see Emilio Estevez at first. You just hear him, and you know it's him. But I'm like, you could tell by the voice. I looked at my son. I think you could tell by the voice. He's like, yeah. Although he does sound a little more like his dad. He's got, now that he's older, he's a little more Martin Sheenish. But, So let's talk about Coach T. He's not that bad of a character. He's a little stuck up, but not as bad as a character from another movie that he played. I'm not talking about Gil from the Descendants movies. No. I'm talking about a character from a found footage horror film who hogged the camera, smoking the weed, and blowing the smoke into the camera. That's right, it was Trevor. My most hated character in any horror movie. Trevor in Grave Encounters 2. Yeah, I saw him, I'm like, wait a minute, he looks familiar. And I looked him up, and I found, Gil. I'm like, oh, he was in, like, no, there's a guy doing that. So I searched his IMDb, and I found him. Like, aha, he was Trevor. I don't know why I wanted to call him Mitch, though. He was Trevor. I'm like, but he's not as bad as Trevor in this. Initially, I thought it was going to be some big, top of his head coach. But I guess not. Are they following canon? I think they are, because I've seen pictures of the returning cast, and Ken Wu was one of them. So they got to be following, canon from the sequels as well. So how they get the duck name back from Eden Hall, and why are they now in the Pee Wee division, which is, they say it's the 13 to 14-year-old, which is full contact, which I don't think would be the case. You can't do full contact with 13 to 14-year-olds, especially since they're a bunch of 11, 12-year-olds. But full contact, you shouldn't be able to do full contact until you're in college. I wanted to play hockey growing up, and I used to play street hockey, and we did not use any contact. We were doing, just kind of nudges. Nothing big. And if we pushed each other, it was into the grass, because it's right there. And of course, you got to play in the middle of the street, because that's how you do it. So, ours was in an entrance to the apartment complex that we lived in, but still, we had to move out of the way when the cars came. That's the way it was back in the 90s, man. I'm just saying. But, yeah, I really did enjoy this. And I think we're going to be watching more episodes. I think my son is into it. So, yeah, a good start. I might do a full review on the season when it's done. Don't quote me on that. We'll see. But, yeah. And, so, what are your thoughts on this? Do you like the original Mighty Ducks films, like right here? Or do you like... have you seen this? Do you like it? What are your thoughts on it? Let me know in the comments below. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you for watching. I've been Scotty. I'll see you in the next one.